The supplies we'll need for this job are a Cat 6 inline Keystone coupler, Cat 6 cable, 3 feet long, standard screwdriver, the key to your machine and opening panels, a thin flat file, a hole punch, flat hole punch, and a small hammer. We'll start by opening the machine using the key. This is the right side panel where the Ruida controller is stored. In the back is a panel where we'll be setting the network cabling. First thing we want to do is look at the Ruida controller, and on the right hand side is a blue Ethernet cable that's labeled Ethernet. We want to unplug that by pressing on the key in the back slightly and then pulling it straight out. That'll dangle off to the side. The next step is to move around to the back of the machine and find the access panel close to the chiller. This access panel for my machine was already removed, and I added it back in just to look at it. What we're going to do is knock this panel out. The best way to do that is to go inside the machine and use that hole punch to lightly knock through this hole and knock this out of the machine. It's already scored on the top and bottom and should pop out fairly easy with tapping it. The next step involves this access panel. There's two pieces. One is the air control assist, where we can plug in an air compressor. The second portion is just a hole in the back of the machine that's square with two small holes. This is almost big enough to do what we need to do. What we need to do is fit this coupler, this Keystone coupler, inside this hole properly, and to do that we need to make it fit. We're going to be using a file to file the bottom and the sides slightly. The metal file we're using, we're going to file just forward, and you may only be able to fit a small amount. You'll put good pressure on it, file forward, bring it back, file forward, and also do that with the sides. We're going to make it just big enough to fit this coupler in. If we move around to the other side, we can see this hole, and we take the portion with the clip facing forward and face that outside the machine. Once this is big enough, we should be able to clip one side easily and then fit the other piece in just like that. On the other side of the machine, we'll have a nice Keystone jack for Cat 6. We can plug our air in here, we can plug our Ethernet in here. Now we need to connect the Ethernet cable to this jack. Take your 3-foot Ethernet cable, plug it into the inside of the machine in that jack we just installed. Run it down and connect it in the place of the blue wire. This little key here goes to the back. Now it's best to route this cable out of the way so it doesn't interfere with other items. So it's connected in the back, connected in the machine, into the controller. And now we're going to take the Ethernet cable that was supplied and connect it to our network and plug it into the machine. The biggest reason for doing this is if we ever need to move the machine or do any work, we don't have to open the machine. We can grab this cable, move it out of the way, plug in a new cable, do whatever we need to without going inside the machine. At this point, we'll add the access panel, close it back up, and make sure that it's locked. The next step is to turn on the machine. Wait for it to initialize. And we are going to press ZU. To bring up the menu. Then we're going to navigate to IP config. And press enter, which will bring up the IP configuration. Now we'll use the arrow keys. Up and down will change the number. Left and right will switch to a different position, left and right. To get to the next address, we'll press ZU, and we can press ZU to get to each one. In my case, I have to understand my network connection settings and the IP address I need to use for this machine and for my gateway. In my case, I'm using an address that's not being used on my network, 192.168.86.123, and the gateway is the IP address of your router. Those numbers should be fairly similar. Once you're done, press the Enter key. You'll be back at the IP config menu, and you press Escape again to get out of this menu. The last step is to set up the Mira 9 in the networking portion of Lightburn. To do this, if the Devices dialog is not already up, choose the Devices button under Laser. This will bring up your device list, which may already have other devices in there. In my case, I have no devices listed. Find My Laser is for using a USB connection. We're going to create this device manually. Click on Create Manually and scroll down the list to Ruida. Click Next. And in the IP address dialog box, we're going to choose the beginning of this address and then use the same IP address that we put into the controller in previous steps. In my case, this is 192.168.86.123. Then click Next. and name your device. In my case, I'm using a Mira 9. The last step is to choose the x-axis and the y-axis, and in my case it's 900 by 600. So I choose Mira 9 and 900 by 600. Click Next. And for the Mira 9, we're going to choose the origin as right rear. Click Next. And we're going to show a summary of the choices we've made. Go ahead and click Finish to add the device. Now that device will show in your device list. Click OK. Now this device shows ready as it's connected.